Hello, welcome to this video on the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, a collection of teachings on spiritual awakening. Today we will see two verses. First one, 125 in Sanskrit, first, with my translation. Samaḥ śatrau cha mitre cha samo mānāvamānayoḥ brahmaṇaḥ paripūrṇatvāt iti jñātvā sukhī bhavet. One should be samaḥ, the same. One should remain the same. Śatrau cha, both with enemy, mitre cha, and with friend. One should remain the same, both with enemy and with friend. Samaḥ, one should remain the same. Mānāvamānayoḥ, mana, when you are considered, when someone gives you good consideration, says good things about you, mānāvamānayoḥ, and when someone says something bad, when someone blames you, you should remain the same. The same both with friend and enemy, both in blame and eulogy, or when someone says something good or something bad, you should remain the same. Why? Brahmaṇaḥ, because our real nature, which is the real nature of everyone and everything, the ever-expanding consciousness bliss, paripūrṇatvāt, is completely full. That is, the ever-expanding consciousness bliss is what it is, both in enemies and in friends, both in good and bad. So here it is a teaching especially about relationship. One should remain equal. Why? Not because one should remain completely devoid of any sensitivity, like a stone, but rather because the ever-expanding consciousness bliss, that is everything, is equally what it is in everything. There are no parts. Paripūrṇatvāt is alluding to the fact of sarvam sarvatra. Everything is everywhere. Every single thing is filled with everything, including the source of everything, the ever-expanding consciousness bliss. There are no parts of it. It's not like space. There are parts of space. The part in that room, in that house, the part outside, there are different parts. Even if the walls do not divide it really, there are different parts. Big parts, small parts. And you cannot do the same thing in a big space than you can do in a small space. But it's not the same with consciousness. Consciousness has no parts. It means that in everything, consciousness is fully consciousness. Even if the thing itself is contracted, a contracted object in time and space, a contracted individual, a contracted personality, a contracted mind with contracted powers, but still the source remains the same. And this is a characteristic very unique to consciousness, because among things, nothing is exactly like that. So there are some comparisons, metaphors, like for instance the mirror. Like the glasses, there are sorts of mirror, and in a mirror a big thing can reflect itself in the small surface of a mirror. You can see on my glasses, and my eyes too, but it's more visible on the glasses because they are a little bit larger. On those glasses, even though they are quite small in comparison with the mountains in front, over there, they can be completely reflected. And that's why in my eyes, which are just the same, I can see those huge mountains. Doesn't mean that my eyes become big as the mountains. Doesn't mean that the mountains become small as my eyes. But because of the play of optics, of the laws of optics, that is possible. The big can come into the small, remaining the big. And that's the magic of consciousness as well, but infinitely more so. So that's a very important point. Iti jñātvā, knowing that, realizing that, having fully realized that fullness of consciousness in every single thing, sukhī bhavet, one will become at ease, relaxed, carefree, sukhī, carefree and harmonious in oneself. Doesn't mean that one will have no more emotions, not in the tantric tradition, because, for example, Shiva, that is the incarnated Shiva, the Murti, the Shiva that you can see in mythology, becomes angry sometimes, shows anger. Doesn't mean that he's just an appearance and in reality he is not angry at all like a stone. No, he is angry, but in anger he tastes, he savors the core of consciousness bliss, of ever expanding consciousness bliss, the Brahman. The Brahman, which is that ever expanding ecstasy according to the tantric tradition. And there he quotes, of course, the Bhagavad Gita and some text apparently from the Vedantic tradition, Shantarasadi Nidarshane. And this is, I think, a quote from the Yoga Vasishtha. And one Siddhanta Muktavali. So this is just being the same in that sense, not remaining like a stone, not remaining like a stone, remaining centered with all one's attention focused on that core of consciousness bliss. All consciousness is bliss, all bliss is consciousness. This is the tantric equation, Chidananda. Next verse 126. Na dveṣam bhāvayet kvāpi, na rāgam bhāvayet kvacit. Rāgadveṣavinirmuktau madhye brahma prasarpati. Na bhāvayet, one should not remain, one should not become habituated, one should not cultivate, one should not evoke, one should not make real or give importance, you could even say. Dveṣam, hate. One should not give importance to hate. One should not linger in it, linger on it. Na rāgam bhāvayet kvacit. One should never, in no occasion, cultivate attachment, extreme passion, raga viraga. One should not give importance, too much importance to them. It's again the same verb, bhāvayet, to give a lot of importance to it. One should not give a lot of importance to those extremes, but rather to their core of awareness and bliss. Again, it doesn't mean that one should not feel anything. This is not the idea here, because on the contrary, it is very much acknowledged in the tantric tradition that the absolute is that movement, that breath movement between raga viraga, between taste and distaste. So there is no escaping that, but there is the possibility, and that is liberation, going from disharmonious emotions, khichari vaishamya, to harmonious emotions, khichari samatā. And that samatā, that equality, that sameness, does not mean that all differences are gone, that all duality is gone. No. It means that all duality is recognized as a manifestation of the ever-expanding one, of the ever-expanding consciousness and bliss. Taste and distaste, out-breath and in-breath, that is natural. There is day and night. There is summer and winter. There is sun and moon. Today is more or less this week is the, the festival of Samhain, and that is a celebration of the strength of life within the darkness that is coming during winter. So the opposites, the play of opposites is there. There is no denying that. But there is the possibility of going from a less harmonious play of opposites, like a war which is uncomfortable, dukkha, to a more harmonious way of playing that war between the opposites with more harmony. Doesn't mean that the extremes are completely going away. There are still constructions, creations, and destructions. There's the play of it all, but with a kind of spatial harmony that we can have a taste of it. It's very easy to experience it, in fact. In poetry, in art, in stories, when we listen to stories, we leave all those opposites, but we leave them in a quite different way. Even if we're spoken of death and war and loss, all those have quite a different taste than in real life, because in art, when we listen to a story, we have a different relationship to things. We have more equality, and we are more open, even though unknowingly, we are more open to the possibility of tasting all those opposites and to their core of ever-expanding bliss consciousness. Rāgadveṣavinirmuktau, madhye, in the center, free from attraction and hate, or passion and hate. Brahma, the absolute, the true nature, ever-expanding bliss. Prasarpati comes like water into a hole, like water coming into a mass of dry earth. It comes inside, it enters inside, it starts to impregnate it, to pervade it, little by little. So it starts with here the middle which is beyond the extremes, but which is the source, the living source of the extreme. Here that's the key point to remember. Here the center is not some dead middle place between extremes, like not doing this, not doing that. It's not like the not this, not that, as understood by the Vedanta, for example, or by Buddhism. Here, it means the center that is the living source of the extremes. So there is no question of losing intensity. There is no question either of searching absolutely for intensity, like having a crazy life, like someone would like it to be. But there is the discovery of that living core. Madhye here could be translated as core. The living core of which The extremes, rāgadveṣa, hate and love, are like the breath, like the breathing out, the breathing in, that very, very most natural movement of life, which is harmony because it is life itself. It is, of course, unbalanced between extremes, but the whole thing is balanced. And that's why when we breathe, we can be alive. So here it's not just about stopping the breath. It's not at all about stopping the breath. It's about feeling the core of breath, both out breath and in breath. It's about feeling that core of bliss and consciousness. That's what it is all about here. At least this is the tantric interpretation we could give of it. Even though those verses like that, they may very well have been taken out of a very different context and tradition. Maybe they come from a Vedantic tradition, maybe they come from a Buddhist tradition, an ascetic tradition. But here, tantric tradition, at least that version of the tantric yoga, is not at all ascetic. It's not about finding no movement, being free from activity, being free from change and all those things. Not in that sense, at least. It's not like becoming space behind things. It's becoming, or rather, it's becoming the source. That is, it is participating, taking part, bhakti, and becoming a part of, an active part of bhajan, of the creativity that is the source, of the creative ecstasy, of the creative action, the pure action. Is going back at the source of action, at the feeling, the pure feeling of the pure action that is behind everything, that is at the source of everything, that is the core of everything. And that is I am I. That is the feeling I am. Aham, aham. That is the greatest mantra here in the non-dual tantric tradition. That's all for today. Thank you for listening and see you next time. Have a good day.